Ms. Caracas.
I think we are losing sight of the fact that this division is still going to function just as well, whether it's an assistant superintendent or a director. And again, to quote Ms. Condon, we have to make do with what we have. And every penny counts, whether it be, and I did ask this question of the superintendent, what was the difference between a director and an assistant superintendent? And it was $8,800. $8,800 is a lot of money. And when we take the $7,000 from this one and $6,000 from that, and you add them all up, we're looking at, I don't know what.
We're looking at a savings of $500,000.
And it could be even more. It could be another $100,000 added to that. Mm-hmm. So we don't have the luxury of adding to anybody's salary. If it's for Mr. Van Zandt's left, maybe it's only $50,000. But either way, every penny counts. And should we be putting that $50,000 back into a classroom, or should we be enriching somebody's salary who, we all have to make do. Our teachers are making do, our staff needs to make do. And to quote you again, we have to make do.
I guess I would just like to say, maybe Mr. Van Zandt, you can ask Ms. McCabe this, but there are certain legal requirements as far as supervising employees and the way that they are paid versus pricing of jobs and things like that. So I think the $6,000, they said the $6,000, but they didn't tell us what was eliminated by the 2 coordinators. So I think that in order to get the full picture of what we're talking about, it's not just, it was adding a $6,000, but subtracting 2 coordinators. So
totally permanently removed.
And that person is now supervising 75 people, which eliminates them from overtime pay, if I'm correct. If you're supervising a certain number of people or certain hours, you're not eligible for overtime pay.
What?
You would be on salary.
Yeah, let me just clarify that.
There's no overtime pay for salary.
The 2 coordinators that are retiring are long-time school board veterans, and I will commit to doing the math to you. When I mean that, I mean all of us are going to do the math. So when we go into allocations, you'll see what one coordinator one made, what the other coordinator one made, and what the supervisor 3 will make. And we'll subtract none of those people on the support services side. They're all admin, so none of them are receiving any overtime pay. But I think it's important to realize that the entire $312 million revenue stream that we have that's funding this year's budget is all transmitted and received in IS. If we're not on our toes, have people with an educational background doing those IS functions for us, we leave ourselves really open. We could be penny wise and pound foolish here if we want to. I do not suggest it. I've had every one of these people that are very talented, very experienced at their jobs, look hard at their divisions, and bringing you the very best recommendations that all of us know how to do. And you don't have to accept any of them, and my feelings won't be hurt personally one way or the other. I'm a little surprised with all the professional development and school boards association training that many of you have been to for many, many years, that it doesn't just make sense that IS needs to become a division. We have to reprioritize. So as we're not building schools, we've deprioritized as some of the instructional functions like textbooks. That's not even a term anymore. The categorical comes to us for instructional materials, and from this last July 1st, 2014 moving forward, 50% of every dollar we get in instructional materials categorical funding must be spent on digital content. Almost all of our EOCs must be given digitally. Florida has already come back and told us that Clay County leads in paper pencil options. We have a pretty robust DSE program. A lot of kids have individual instruction programs or IEPs. So we end up with a lot of paper pencil. We are being mandated to also cut those down. I would just caution you to not cut your nose off to spite your face and go down in student achievement. Our kids deserve the IS division that we're proposing with instructional expertise in it. When I first got on the school board and when Ms. Studdard first got on the school board, the people in the IS division were concerned with wires, switches, routers. It was a very mechanical function. It was drilling holes in walls and 50-year-old school buildings that when the guys built it, the internet hadn't been invented, computers hadn't been invented. We are building schools within a school right now with IS. We're going back into our school buildings, doing things where if we were just growing and building new schools, we would be bringing you architects, engineer drawings, and hiring contractors to go build new schools. What our IS department is really doing for us is going into classrooms and rebuilding the inside workings of that classroom. I mean, it's not chalk and blackboard. I mean, I know you get this, and I'd be more than happy to have people take you through the schools. But what we're suggesting to you is what our kids are going to need to advance and get into college, get jobs. It's the way it's going. I didn't invent this. It's just what needs to happen. But that's, again, just my recommendation.
Ms. McKenna, may I ask the superintendent a question? Mr. Van Zandt, are you saying that if the position of Assistant Superintendent for Information Services isn't created and it stays as a director position, that department will no longer function? Because this is how you're making it sound. They're functioning, they have to do, they have to do. They're doing it now with him as a director. I don't see any reason to bump it up when we can get by with him as a director. So are you saying that it will no longer function the way it's functioning?
What I'm saying is the proposal that I brought you is the best way for our school district to function. We have shaped something in an allocation package to you that is worthy of its independent division. I very intentionally, in hiring our incoming deputy superintendent, taken the Department of Transportation out from under the deputy superintendent. Miss Adams, our retiring deputy, currently supervises transportation. She also currently supervises IS. The reason I chose Mrs. Forneggy over several other qualified applicants is she has the best instructional lens that I could find. All these divisions, support services, human resources, business affairs, IS, and instruction, if you approve it this way, will report to the superintendent, to this board, through a deputy superintendent that remains with an instructional focus. The whole school system is a whole lot more on intentionally moving instruction than it's ever been before. It used to be a management function. So I see this no different than taking a teacher and hiring them to be in administration, to be an assistant principal, and say, but we're just going to have to make do. So we're going to call you an administrator, and you're going to do discipline, and you're going to evaluate teachers somehow, but we're going to keep you on an instructional salary. That would be the same thing. When we move somebody into a position to do something very intentional, we need to take what we're asking them to do and give them that banding grade that reflects that. When we ask somebody that's a mechanic among several mechanics to be a supervisor of many mechanics, then we move that person up into the appropriate banding grades. So that's the proposal. And that's really as much as I care to comment about this. I'm ready for the board to do whatever it wants to do.
Thank you, Mr. Van Zandt. Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay. All right. The next one is Assistant Superintendent for Support Services. Assistant Superintendent for Support Services. I think with this one, it's just a word change or the deletion of a word. So that from Bachelor's of Science to just Bachelor's degree. Any comments on this one?
I did have a question on that one, and I was just kind of wondering why we're changing it. What benefit is there to take that away? It seems to me that we would want to keep it as the Bachelor of Science, because that is, more towards the field of, somebody who has Bachelor of Science is going to have something to do with construction, engineering, architect, and that is what we want. So, what's the reason? I'm just curious what the reason is to change that to say, bachelor's degree instead of science.
Sure. A lot of degrees in that field, construction managers, architects, are bachelor's degrees. They're not bachelor's of science. Last year when you asked us to clean up a lot of job descriptions, we went through and took out where it said bachelor's of arts or bachelor's of science and struck those words out. We're not going to get any less caliber of a person. Our current one happens to hold a master's of science. We're always going to look for the best qualified person, but I would not want to automatically screen out somebody. There's so many ways to get degrees these days because their bachelor's degrees says bachelor's in management or bachelor's of arts versus bachelor's of science. It doesn't fit if you look at this in the context with our other administration requirements for non-instructional positions. It really doesn't make sense. That's why.
Okay.
That was just my question. It just seemed to me, would you want somebody who had a Bachelor of Arts in art history or something? You want to make sure it's exactly what we're looking for. It just seemed like keeping it as a Bachelor's of Science made more sense. So I was just curious.
Okay. We ready to move on to the next one? The next one is the Internal Accounts Auditor. And I believe upon review of this job description, it was discovered that Business Affairs originally submitted it as a Director 2. It is a correction to begin in the 15-16 school year. So it was just it's a correction.
May I ask when you say it's just correction, is it now existing as a Director 2, this position? Or it's being changed from a Director 3 to a Director 2? So it's not really a correction, we're changing the pay grade. So that's okay.
Right now it says Director 3 when I review job descriptions because I am leaving. This is one of the ones that comes under my purview. I was reviewing this and it had been submitted as a 2. So rather than, I said oops, I want to fix this. And I did not ask for us to correct it for the 14-15 year, but for it to begin in the 15-16
When it was originally approved, it was approved as a Director 2? Is that what you're saying?
When it was submitted as a 2, it got put on the agenda as a 3, and we've been living with it as a 3. I did not catch it. I made a mistake.
So why not just leave it as a 3?
Because I believe it deserves to be a 2, but you do what you think you need to do.
Well, make do with what we've got. If it's at a 3, and
I think in my view, I think this just kind of goes to the same argument that Mr. Van Zandt had just made on the other issue. You have somebody doing a Director 2 work getting paid as a Director 3. I think the point that Mrs. Adams is making is that the work is the work of a Director 2, and it should be that way.
thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments on this one? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. The next one is a Specialist Title 1. And it just says this is a revision. The teacher position is revised to reflect changes to updated job responsibilities for evaluation, reporting structure, and change in job-specific requirements. This will be effective for the 15-16 school year. I didn't have any comments on this one. Anybody else have any comments on this one? Okay. We'll move on to the next one, which is a Title III Professional Development Program Specialist. This one is also revised to reflect changes to the updated job titles for evaluation, reporting structure, changes in job-specific certifications that are no longer applicable. The previous job description indicated a split of duties between Title I and Title III. This position will be solely funded by Title III funds effective 15-16 school year. Any comments on this one? Okay. Move on to the next one. Director of School Improvement / Professional Development Assessment. The change in Director of School Improvement, Professional Development and Assessment is a change in position grade only. This change will give equity to all directors within the division. Questions? Comments? Okay. Next one is Supervisor of Instructional Resources / STEM. And this one says This is Supervisor 2. It says the Supervisor 2 of Instructional Resources STEM replaces the Supervisor 1 of Instructional Support Services as both a cost-saving measure and new responsibilities as our resources shift to digital content. This position also reflects our efforts to increase access to STEM courses and programs for students across the district. Any comments or concerns? Okay. Well, we're getting down there. Okay, the next one is Technology Services Coordinator. This is going from a Coordinator 2 to a Coordinator 1. And it's basically, position is revised to reflect changes, again, to updated job titles for evaluation reporting structure, and change in job-specific certifications no longer applicable. And then the duties are all listed there. I'll read them all. Any comments? Okay, move on to the next one, which is our last one. Supervisor of Technology Services. And this is going from a Supervisor 3 to a Supervisor 2. And this position is revised to reflect changes to updated job titles, basically the same thing. Any comments? Concerns?
What was the, I don't have it right there.
You want me to?
What was the level of the person that was being transferred over into that job?
I'm not sure. Mrs. Corrigan? Yeah, Ms. Corrigan. It's a Supervisor 2.
And he's been transferred over to be a supervisor 2.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, we're looking at a Supervisor 2.
Declared that nobody could talk directly to any people.
Okay. All right. I'm thinking the best way to do this is we have a motion on the floor to approve these job descriptions. So I think the best way to do it is, and I'll just get a consensus from the board, we can approve them one at a time, or we can vote on them, one at a time, or we can vote on it as an entire package. So what is the pleasure of the board?
I personally think we should probably do them all one at a time because I'm not in favor of the majority of them. But it's whatever the board wants.
Okay.
Whatever the majority wants to do is fine with me.
Ms. Connie? One at a time? Okay. All right. So, Ms. Bush, we're going to do these one at a time, okay? So we're going to go in the same order that we just reviewed them. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the job descriptions, and we'll go through them one at a time, okay? Beginning with, let me get back
Excuse
here.
me, Ms. McKenna.
Yes.
When we do it like this, do we need a motion and a second on every job description separately? I believe we do.
Okay.
I think you can do this. There's a motion opinion on the floor already for the entire package,
Okay.
up or down. And so you can vote on it that way, but if you want somebody to amend it, and because you have any motion,
Okay.
made and second.
Or the motion can be withdrawn.
Or the motion can be withdrawn,
Okay.
and then you can move each one individually. Right now, there's a pending motion for
Right.
second, so you can vote them all right now, and then, or if you want to do what individually,
Okay.
withdraw a motion.
Correct. Okay, so we can either want to withdraw the duo.
So you're saying that because there's a motion and a second on the floor, that we could just go ahead and vote to approve the job descriptions right now and be done with it, not have to.
Right.
That is correct.
But if we want to do them one by one, we have to withdraw the current motion, and then I have to put a motion up for each one.
I think
It was Ms. Common's motion. Yeah. So would you want, I'm okay with voting on all of them as a package. It was your motion, so we can just vote on it as a package, or we can withdraw the motion and then make a motion for each individual one.
My recommendation is for the council to vote on.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. This is for the whole package. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Motion carries 3-2. The job descriptions are approved as advertised. Okay. Okay, moving on to item number 3. Yes. But first, I believe we have a card on item number 3. Did it fall on the floor? Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, so we have, I'm sorry, is it Gwen?
Yes.
Shangle, correct? Did I say that correct? Yes, Miss Gwen. Do I get to dance?
My name is Gwen Shangle. You have my address on record. Those of you who are senior members who have been here for years past have heard me speak before. You newer board members probably don't know me that well. I tend to be a bit outspoken. I've received so many phone calls in the last week about this special meeting, about the allocations and so forth, that the job descriptions that we're discussing, and that the allocations are going to be discussed on the 21st. Interestingly enough, listening to Mr. Van Zandt refer to the 21st meeting as the 28th, so that's already been decided, is a little disturbing. Even more so, it's been repeatedly pointed out to me that we have had, and there's no nice politically kind way to say this, people, we have had, typically since the elections in November, a 3-2 vote in the favor of whatever agenda is at the pleasure of Mr. Van Zandt. I apologize if that sounds rude. That is truly the case. It is noted by the citizenry. With that said, to try to postpone a meeting on the 21st, that's not only a general meeting where you're going to be voting on these allocations, but also that that agenda has not been published as of yet, and we don't know what else might be there as a public. To note that it takes 3 board members to create a quorum. I called my immediate representative. I called my neighboring representative. And with all due respect, and I'm going to point, and I apologize, you, and you are left out of that. It would be an unusual circumstance that 3 board members, 2 that are most recently elected, all of you know when these board meetings are. For 3 board members not to be able to attend would be a rare incident. Now granted, it's May. Maybe there's weddings, maybe there are graduations, maybe you've had a death in the family. I've had 3 in the last 3 months. I get it. It would be unusual for all 3 of you not to be able to attend. It appears that, and I have been questioned repeatedly, is this an effort for the board to set up the 3-2 vote that's been going on by moving the board meeting to where everyone can be there, because if just one of you is absent, one of you 3, and someone doesn't approve these allocations, it's a 2-2 vote that fails. That kind of a setup is one step shy, maybe even not, of collusion. I'm not accusing anyone, I'm just saying there's something wrong when the public elects new people to a board. I understand you all have jobs that apparently are more important than your school board job, which pays more than most of these people in your services are paid. You need to show up, you need to be there, you need to vote, or you don't go postponing board meetings in order to fix a vote.
Thank you,
I apologize for the rudeness, but there was no nice way to say it, had to be said.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this was actually submitted by Superintendent Van Zandt. Consider moving the May regular school board meeting from May 21st, 2015 to Thursday, May 28th, 2015. And I will entertain a motion, and then I would like to just talk about why I think Mr. Van Zandt's doing this, because I think it really revolves
Mr.
around
Van Zandt's doing it?
So I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll move approval.
I have an approval by Ms. Gilhausen. Do I have a second? And a second by Ms. Condon. Okay. We'll have some discussion. First of all, I want to say that I do have another job. And I know, I think I'm the only other one that works a full-time job on this board. All of the other board members are full-time board members, yes. Several weeks ago, I took a new role in the company that I work for, and I was assigned to go on a business trip out of the country, and I was supposed to go out of the country this week. I purposely told them I need to do it this week because I have a board meeting, and they know that I'm an elected official, and because of the location that I'm going, there are some security risks, and that trip was postponed. That trip has been rescheduled for the week of the 18th. And I'm going to be gone that entire week. And so I immediately contacted the superintendent, and I told the superintendent I do not think I'm not going to be able to be at that board meeting. So it was out of professional courtesy that I'll let him know. So that's basically where it stands. The idea of putting this on to move, I understand. If there's somebody else that's not going to be there, I am not aware of it. Okay, so
you have a quorum.
I would just like, Mrs. Shangle, you do not have the floor. So I would like to have some discussion, and I'll let Ms. Condon start.
My understanding is that there is precedence for moving a board member or board members not being there, and so I don't know, except for being in the public and watching, because it hasn't happened in the 5 months that I've served. But I also would like to say that obviously we've talked tonight about job descriptions. We know the allocation package is coming. I enjoy the discussion from all of you. In fact, I've changed some votes based on some things that people have said at times and in our meetings, and I do value the input of all board members, and I think we're looking at, as we do every meeting, look at very important things, but this specifically I think will be some very important things going forward for the coming school year, and I value your leadership, Ms. McKinnon, and your input.
Would you answer, is she available on the 21st?
Okay.
And I'm available on the 21st.
Okay.
Also. I am also available on the 21st.
Okay.
I just agree that it's important that if we are able to accommodate, to have all of our board members here, since we are each elected. Each of our votes comes from the electorate. I don't think that anybody's vote counts for less than anybody else's. So if we're able, and I would say that we would do the same for you, Ms. Karkas, if the situation ever arose, I think we would expect that professional courtesy from one another.
Ms. Stutter, did you have a comment?
I'm available on the 21st.
Okay. Ms. Karkas.
I do appreciate that professional courtesy because I actually have plans on the 28th. My husband is traveling, and I'm fortunate enough to travel with him. So I was planning on going on the 27th and returning on the 28th, and I will not be back in time. And I would rather keep it on the 21st when we're scheduled for it, since knowing that our schedule is the 21st, I purposely plan to meet him.
And I did too.
I would rather us keep it on the 21st like we're supposed to.
Two points. One, it rests within the sound discretion of the board. If the board wants to change it, it's within the discretion of the board to change it. And number two is and I don't know how the board's going to vote anyway, but if it's going to be 2-2, it's going to have to be revisited anyhow. The last major point is each district has the right to be represented at each board meeting. And so if we have a meeting in which one of the board members clearly and unequivocally cannot be here and is asking it to be postponed, then it's within the board's discretion to postpone it. If somebody has a voluntary trip and they're going to absent themselves, that's within their discretion to so do. So it's within the board's discretion.
I do know that I'm not trying to put this on you as far as an expectation with your work and things, but given the evening that we meet and all, I understand that our policy, and reading our policy, there is the ability that you could attend via electronic media, whether it's conference call or web solutions, and I just wonder if that could be an option.
It won't be an option given the country that I'm going to be in.
Can we just discuss a different date that might work
Yeah,
better
that's what
for
I'm
yours?
saying. What about,
So I know that we have a 21-day, don't we have a 21-day legal requirement, which is why I believe the day of the 28th was chosen, because that's 21 days from today.
You know,
We have, in order to advertise, isn't that correct?
why don't we
The
just
21
meet
day?
on the
I'm sorry. Okay.
Why don't we just meet on the 21st? As Mr. Sykes said, if it happened to come out to be a two-day vote, it's going to have to come back forward anyway. So what's the
There you go.
difference? Let's just meet on the 21st. We've already got visionary set for the 21st. The public expects us to meet on the third Thursday. There's been very few times that we have changed the meetings. I know one time the building wasn't free because of the health care, was it?
I know we moved a meeting for Miss Caracas when I was actually on the board. It was for a wedding, I believe, that you had to attend.
No.
So, or it was,
That was not for
it was a
me.
graduation.
You actually weren't on the board. I don't believe you were, but we did, and I actually brought it to the board in July, and I asked the board, I let the board know that I would not be there because my son's graduating from basic training, and I let them know that I wouldn't be there unless they wanted to move it, and so the board did move it. But I did give them plenty of time. I didn't just spring it on you 2 days before the special meeting. And so.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Any other discussion?
We should probably just meet on the 21st, and if we have to revisit something, we revisit it the next one.
And as far as the comment about we are elected from the district, but the statute says that once you're elected, you represent the entire district, the entire county. So, I don't think that there's anybody in Middleburg or Keystone or Orange Park or Green Cove that would hesitate to call any of us out of us, because I think that we are out all over this county, and that's who we represent. We represent all the kids, all the county. So it's not like a single member district where your people are not going to be represented if you're not at that board meeting. I mean, that's a little stretch.
Ms. Gilhousen.
I'd like to amend my motion that instead of consider moving the meeting from May 21st to the 28th, that we move it to the 26th.
Okay, Ms. Gilhousen has motioned to amend the current motion on the floor, which is, the current motion is moving the regular school board meeting from the 21st to the 28th, and she wants to amend that from moving it from the 21st to the 26th. Do I have a... Do I have a second on that?
Before you do that, though, it's not enough time to advertise, is it?
Yeah, there is.
21 days?
He said, yeah, I was thinking 21, but, yeah. Okay, so I have a motion to amend the motion, and the amendment is to change the motion from the meeting from the 21st to the 28th, moving that to the 26th. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
In full disclosure, Ms. Adams might get to be the district representative on that evening. I had a business trip out of town. So really what we're talking about is we could keep it on the 28th to amend Ms. McKinnon's job. I'm in the Florida National Guard. I go to flight simulator training twice a year. I'm scheduled to go the 26th, 27th. Spend the night in Savannah, Georgia, and use the Black Hawk simulator. That's part of what I do. Or amended. Somebody's not going to be there. So, again, it's the board's meeting, as I've been reminded several times. And if you meet on the 26th, I will probably not be there. So there you go.
Okay, any other discussion?
I still think we ought to just have it on the 21st.
Okay, but we're talking about the amendment right now. Okay, so if there's no other discussion about the amendment, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the amendment from moving it from the 28th to the 26th. All those in favor say aye. Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, all 5 of us could attend the 26th, correct?
Yes.
Is that what we were saying? Okay.
But Mr. Hanson asked us.
Okay, so the amendment is on the floor for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. Okay, so the motion to amend fails by a vote of 3-2. So we are back to the main motion, which is to move the school board meeting from the 21st until the 28th. Is there any more discussion about that?
I just feel, I feel this is an impossible situation to be in. I said I value Ms. McKinnon's input. I also value Ms. Kirkus' input. And so, because, and I respect that you, 3 of you voting, but that it's really, I don't want to pick between the 2 of you. I value both of your input at the meetings. That's why we come once a month.
Ms. McKinnon, may I say something? I just want to remind everybody, at our organizational meeting in November, we approved the date, the time, and the location of every one of our meetings. We said that our meeting would be the 3rd Thursday of every month. So I didn't plan to meet my husband on the 21st to travel and visit. I planned to meet him on the 28th, just like I went last week and met him on a trip. I didn't plan it on a night that I know that I have a school board meeting, and I respect that you have an additional job, but unfortunately for you, you're going to have to miss a school board meeting. Well, maybe not because majority rules, but I think we need to remember, we all adopted that in November, that the 3rd Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. in the Teacher Training Center is where we would conduct our meetings. The public knows it. Everybody's aware of it. And so, honestly, Ms. McKinnon, you might just have to miss it. So I just, I'm
I was
sorry.
planning on it.
I just recommend we vote on the motion that we haven't voted on yet, and if not, we have to reschedule another meeting or keep it on the 21st.
Okay. So we're back to the main motion. We had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
What is the motion?
The motion is to move the May regular school board meeting from May 21st to May 28th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. The motion fails 4-1. So the school board meeting is going to remain on the 21st.
I would just like to say thank you to my fellow.
You know what? I wish if it does, I will dial in, but I don't think it is going to. Okay. All right. Yes. So I guess so we won't need to do the next one. Yeah, the next one is muted, so we'll just strike it from the agenda. Okay. So with that, we will move into presentations from the audience, and I do have, actually I had a card here to speak to item 4, but since it's been stricken from the agenda.
Can I go to the general audience then?
Yes, you can. Okay,
You put me last, all right?
Okay, I'll put you last, Mr. Huffman. Okay, so next we have Mr. Travis Christensen for citizens under presentations from the audience.
Travis from the 871 Affirm Board. Just want to make some general comments about government transparency. I understand you're going to occasionally have special meetings. I've started calling surprise meetings because they're always a surprise to me. Yet sometimes work comes up, you have to get it done. But as we've seen, like the conversation, 3rd Thursday of the month, it's probably what you need to strive for because it's continuity. But as you've been saying, the citizens know what it is, and I also know where it is. One of the questions I have is it says in your school board policy, all general and all regular and special meetings will be at Fleming Island High, unless a public purpose is served by having them elsewhere. My question is, why then are you having a meeting here? mean, it's probably not the most important issue in the world, but then again, as far as transparency, people who generally go to school board meetings, they know where they usually are. I had to Google map this place the first time I came here. I had no idea where in Green Cove Springs this place was. But I'd just like to know, maybe if a greater public service is, public purpose is served by having them in this room, I'd like to know what it is. And if you just like having them here for special meetings, you probably should change your school board policy. This brings to mind one of the last special meetings we had in December. This is, again, general comments about transparency. As you all might recall, I sent you an email to each of the school board members and a few other people. I had some complaints about the way public comments were taken or not taken, or procedures were taken at that time. I kind of decided to let it go rather than try to make that a long, drawn-out battle, even though I still believe I was in the right. And I sent it in and got nothing back for like over a month and a half, and finally went to the public records, paid for the public records request to see what happens. And what I find is an email from Sharon McKinnon to the lawyer saying, "Could you look at this complaint? Please call me back." Well, the exact words were, "Call me back if you have any questions." That annoys me to death, because in my public records request, I have absolutely no record of any legal opinion from the lawyer to the school board chair. And I often feel that public officials often do this. One of our county commissioners at one time was famous for, "Oh, I don't do emails. Please call me." Because the emails are public. It makes a record. What, about 30 seconds?
Yeah.
I'd like you to please refrain from, I understand you're going to do business on the phone. Don't do it as the primary way when a public way is available. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. I would like to just respond to that. The email that you are referring to that you sent to me, I did send an email to the attorney and he did respond to me, and I responded back to you within 2 days, and you did get that email in your public record. So you have the public record that shows the email that I responded to you. So I did answer your question. Thank you. Okay. Next, your time is done.
I never actually
Next is Joanne Denmark.
Said to everyone but me.
Madam Chairman.
Miss Denmark, you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Forward to the
Please state
My
your
name
name.
is Joanne Denmark. You have my address on file. I am speaking from a parent's perspective. I have 2 children that attend Orange Park Elementary School, and last year and this year, their resources, their education was cut, gifted 4th grade class. And in all of this discussion for 2 hours, not one person has talked about a child. And these are the kids that we are talking about. It's a school board meeting. It's about schools. I understand that you need to make jobs and people, you need principals and all that support. So I get that. But it is about our children and their education. And it really is so disappointing as a parent sitting there and just listening to this. I don't even know if I need to laugh or cry at times, really. How, and Ms. Stutter, I think you really hit it on the head, how the public perception, how can you cut 80 teaching positions, and yet we're talking about adding 4 new administrative positions. I don't care how you look at it. We should be talking about how we're going to increase the budget in order to get 80 teaching positions back, how we can get our resources back. We should not be talking about administrative positions. We are in a deficit. I just can't. This is common sense, and I know a lot of people don't have common sense, but to me, it just makes it's just plain common sense. We should be fighting for teachers here. Sandy Valencourt, she spoke at the last meeting. She has not received a job yet. We talked about attrition. She told me they're in phase 3, and she's not been offered a position.
I mean, this is what we should be talking about. What is the urgency of these positions? I do not see the urgency. I feel like this is purely discretionary. Who is currently doing the tasks that these new staff will be performing? I just don't see it. I honestly don't see it. I speak to a lot of parents, and they concur with everything I say. This is plain common sense. Like the Director of Informational Services, Carl Hendrick's job. I don't see how he can go from, if it's a lateral position, to an assistant superintendent. I mean, you talked about, Ms. McKinnon, that, we need to restructure. Where I work at, I'm a speech pathologist. If someone says, hey, we need helping kids off the bus, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm only a speech pathologist. All I can do, I help out. That's what we do when we're in a crisis. You work as a team, you help out. It's not about the money. It's about helping our children. This is the bottom line. Our children are not numbers. They are human beings. So, just to let you know, I am available for May 21st at the school board meeting. I'm going to be there, and I will speak for 10 minutes. I would like, if we could address at the next meeting on May 21st, the new position, the salaries. I don't think we should be looking at iPads and looking for technology. That should be made public, what the salaries are. I would also like a detailed cost savings of this $500,000, exactly where it's coming from, detailed. We should not be looking, Mr. Gavin Rollins, maybe you could help with the app. You can see that.
It is on the website,
okay.
The salary. All that information is on the website.
Okay, well, can you do a notification?
Sure.
Because
yeah.
all these little dings,
How about I send one
we're in
directly?
technology, let's get a notification going. I should not have to be searching for this information. Ms. McKinnon?
This is your 3 minutes are up.
Okay. I just want to end with, if we want to innovate, empower, and engage, who are we trying to innovate, engage, and empower? Our children, the students, my children, your children, the one that's going to be starting kindergarten. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smitty Huffman.
Since I was going to talk a little bit about discipline on the original, I'll try to be nice. A couple things that concern me. Number one, it's like going to the principal's office. You never know why you're going there. So when I go to a school board meeting, sometimes you guys make decisions I totally disagree with, and sometimes you make good ones. I do know that the employees, whether they be teachers, staff, maintenance, whatever, are totally frustrated. It's kind of like we keep giving and giving and giving, and we're giving for the kids. And a lot of posts on Facebook say, hey, if you're a Republican teacher, or you're a union teacher, or you're a Democratic teacher, you're going to act certain ways. No, we're not. We're going to do what's best for the kids, okay? And the bottom line is the frustration level for teachers is just beyond. And not meaning to correct you, Mr. Van Zandt, but actually the $6.1 million allocated money was allocated by the governor of the state of Florida. And there was actually a statute that stated that that money was to go towards teachers and classroom teachers and staff. Okay, the rest of the employees in the county were fully aware of that. They knew that. They don't argue that. Okay, so that 6.1 was actually for the teachers. Now you got to remember, and I did the math. I actually teach 6th grade math. I did the percentages on a $45,000 salary. After the wonderful state decided to force us to pay the 3% in retirement, which was a loss of income, I have a net loss of income for the last 2 years with that allocated money of 2% every year. And there's still an increase of cost of living. So it might have been the largest increase on the books, but that's like statistics. 90% of shark attacks happen in less than 4 feet of water, but only how many people swim in less deep water than that? So I just want to make it clear that the teachers, when decisions are made, and I agree that the transparency needs to be there. If there was just one little Excel spreadsheet line where they say, these are the ranges of these positions, and this is the loss, and this is the gain, and here's the total potential loss, or here's the potential gain, we wouldn't have this argument. You need to provide this, you need to provide that. I honestly can get those numbers if you give them to me. I'll put them on an Excel spreadsheet. I'll bring them to the next board meeting. Just give me the numbers. It would not take me more than an hour to do that. Okay, so, and I don't know the budget that well because it's like reading a lawyer's brief sometimes. So please do your best to be transparent to the public.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Helpman. Superintendent requests.
I would like to correct one thing I said. I think I misspoke when I said the 6.1 raise went to instructional personnel in 14-15. That was in 13-14. Okay, so that was in 13-14 that there was a special appropriation for teacher raises. And also, tonight was simply about making sure that we had the right job descriptions in place, that the right qualifications existed for the right positions, and that they were at the right banding grade on the established pay tables that have been established in Clay County for years. That's all tonight was about. The meeting later in May, the regular board meeting, is the night we will talk about allocations and expenses. And I can tell you, since 1998, since I've been on the school board, this entire process is more transparent than it's ever been. Everybody in Clay County that works for the school district, if you know that they're a teacher or a bus driver or a supervisor of maintenance and about how long they've worked with us, you can go online on your phone at home or here in a board meeting and figure out how much they make pretty quickly. So it is a tremendously transparent process. Tonight was not about that. If board members tell me what they want to have in additional backup at a meeting, we will certainly have it. I have no problem with that. Ms. Karakas asked about the assistant superintendent for instruction salary. I called her back that evening, left her a voicemail with that number, and I appreciate that communication and the ability to respond. But when we don't come prepared with certain information, it's just hard to gather on a moment's notice. And like somebody noted, the board members make plenty of money. They can do a little homework on their own, or if they give me any kind of notice, I will bend over backwards to have whatever material you guys need to make decisions on brought with me. I think I also ought to touch on, because the board directs me to build or maintain the school board meeting room or redo the human resources pre-employment room, I can certainly do that. The Clay County School Board meeting room is right across the street. Okay? When Fleming Island High School was built, there was a special legislative appropriation for a teacher training and service center. That's where we've been holding our meetings for over a decade now. That is a teacher training and service center built with a special appropriation for training. That's why we call it the TTC. If there's training scheduled, which is the purpose that building was built for, with the money appropriated for that building, that goes on. So if that building, a lot of times if y'all have asked the chairman in the 3 years recently she was chairman, if she wanted a special meeting, she would say, is this room available? And you've heard that several times. If you go back in the minutes, we'd see if that room was available. If it was, we had the meeting right there. If it wasn't, we rescheduled it for here or somewhere else. That's not anything other than using the appropriate resources for what they were established for, okay? So the board has a policy that will record meetings, that will advertise them for 7 days. We do all those things. So having a meeting in Green Cove Springs, the county seat of Clay County, is not a crazy idea. Having it at 5 in the afternoon is not a crazy idea. Our Congress and our state legislature meet all day long and half the night sometimes. Our Board of County Commission starts their meetings at 2 in the afternoon. Many other school districts have 2 meetings a month and meet during the day, and the state law requires us to meet at least once a quarter in the evening. I forget the exact wording, at a time that is convenient for the public to get there. We make every meeting in the evening at a time. These job descriptions, if you go back historically and look at the last several springs, up until just 2 or 3 years ago, job descriptions were on the consent agenda. Because I never supposed as a board member for 14 years that I would know better than the district staff what a grants writer or a maintenance supervisor should be doing. That was just for granted. But again, hey, we're willing to discuss it, and we have. So thank you for allowing me to make this comment.
Okay, school board requests. Ms. Stucker?
You want to start with me?
Yes.
Okay. I do want to say that I appreciate the teachers. This is Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you for the ones who have still made it here. Y'all do a fantastic job. Coming from a family of educators, mother, aunt, grandmother, everybody in the family but me. I don't think people really understand all the hard work that teachers do. So for me, I would like to again say thank you to all our teachers. The National Day of Prayer service was this morning. I regrettably didn't get to go. I was sitting out at Mayo, for a necessary appointment with my husband, so I had to be there, but I'm sure that it went well. Thank y'all all for coming, the ones who are here. I mean, it's dinner time, and I know you'd like to go have dinner, so with that, I will be quiet. Pass it to Ms. Gilcott.
I'll echo your comments and just say thank you to the teachers, both here and elsewhere. I know as a student growing up, some of my teachers made some of the biggest impacts on my life and helped me to set goals for my future. And I firmly believe I wouldn't be sitting in this chair today if it weren't for the teachers that I had in the Smith County School District. So hats off to you for all the many, many hats that you wear. I did attend the National Day of Prayer this morning, and it was a very special time to see community leaders and stakeholders come together for the purpose of prayer for our county and our nation. I also attended the police memorial service, and that was touching to see the families recognized who have really made the ultimate sacrifice in the interest of our public. So with that, I hope you all have a good week, and we'll see you the 21st.
I'd also like to say thank you to everybody who came today and took time out of your busy schedule to come and listen to us. And to our teachers, we really appreciate you. And something you may not have realized, Ms. Gillenhausen, but yesterday was School Nurse Day. So hats off to all our school nurses too. We appreciate all their hard work and their dedication. It's the whole week, but yesterday was the actual day. And I think, is it tomorrow? What day was the actual?
And school nutrition employees. It's all three this week, so it's big appreciation week.
And something else that took place last week. I don't know if anybody made it to the Orange Park Mall to see the arts display that was going on out there. I know Mrs. Studdard probably was out there. I've gone every year. It's always great to see what our kids are doing. It seemed to me this year that there was less display than other years, and I don't know if that's reflective of not having the art teachers at the classes at the schools that we had before or not. I remember, 4 or 5 years ago, there was, the whole JCPenney section was covered, and Mike Dillard's, there was a lot. And this year, it didn't seem like as much, but the work was beautiful, and our kids are doing a great job, so thank you.
I too would like to echo the sentiments of our teachers, school nurses, and food service nutrition workers. We are so appreciative. We are very appreciative. I too attended the National Day of Prayer service this morning and then the police memorial. And I would say that our Middleburg High School choral ensemble sang a beautiful rendition of You Lift Me Up at the police memorial. And it was so touching and so moving. And the students were really excited afterward to get to participate and be part of a ceremony that a lot of them said they had not been part of before. So it was great to have our school district represented there. Also, I would just like to publicly thank our superintendent for asking the Pam Stewart, the head of the department, Commissioner of Education for the Department of Education for the state, to extend our test days. That became critical because we had some of the online testing had some failures, and if we had not had those additional days, superintendent, all of our students would not have gotten to complete that testing. And while they may have liked to have not completed that testing, it certainly it was impactful for those students who had worked so hard to show what they've learned. Certainly, as you know from my past comments, I don't put a lot of personal weight on one test day. I would like to say that a number of administrators and teachers have asked us as a school district to really tell the state that 3 weeks of testing is so burdensome and so cumbersome, and the loss of instructional time is bigger than it had been with the FCAT. So I won't say a whole lot about that because I know too everyone wants to go have dinner, but I would ask everyone to continue to talk to our elected officials about these unreasonable burdens they are putting on our school districts and on our students. Because I agree, Ms. Denmark, it is about the kids. And lastly, I guess I'd like to say that we had a number of students attending proms. Last week was Clay High's prom. I know that a number of our high school proms are coming up. And I'd just like to ask all of our students to be safe and to consider their actions so that we don't have to see them at discipline situations, and that they're safe, and that's the most important thing.
Thank you, Ms. Condon. You guys pretty much said it all, but I will also echo the thankfulness for the teachers, the school nurses, and the food services employees for everything that they do. And I know sometimes, it's kind of like, it's the job that doesn't seem to get all the recognition, but they really are at the heart and soul of our school district. And so I just want to personally thank each and every one of them. As far as the police officers memorial, I did not get to make it there, but I will tell you, it is very near and dear to my heart. My father was a police officer for the Los Angeles Police Department. And he retired after like 32 years. And so I have a deep-seated respect for our police force and for the Clay County Sheriff's Department and the work that they do every day. And so it was unfortunate I was not able to be there. But, I've spoke with Sheriff Beasler, and he knows really where I stand on that. So I don't think I need to say more to that. But so the other thing that I just wanted to clarify, the reason why we did not have this meeting at the TTC tonight is because the TTC right now is full of reading teachers who are attending a reading council meeting. So that room was previously scheduled, and that was why we could not have this meeting there. So that's all I have, and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much. Yes, happy Mother's Day. By the way, hold on.
Could I have one outline? I got to have a calendar.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Yes. Hold on one second. We're not adjourned yet. Ms. Legatko, did you have a calendar that you needed to share with us?
I don't have a business card with me. Please call me. I Facebook you at one point.
Is it something that we can take with us and then review? Okay.
You found online?
Okay, thank you very much. The meeting is now adjourned.